Yeah, this one isn't going to get me in any trouble at all. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another kind of random video today. Today we're going to be taking a look at what I call the most aggressive fandoms that I have encountered since I have been running this channel. Now, here's the thing about this is I want people to understand this is neither going to be a broad generalization about a fandom as a whole, nor is it me necessarily being negative on this fandom. I know a lot of people, myself included, have things that they're very, very passionate about, and they will, snap back if they feel like someone is misrepresenting their series. So I know a lot of people will be like, I've been a part of that community and I've never experienced that before. Well, you have to ask yourself, are you a content creator? Because if you're a content creator and you cover some of these series and you have a decent enough size platform, you're going to hear a lot more pushback than the regular person might for their opinion. So again, I don't want anyone taking any of this stuff personally because it's not meant to be that way. It's just kind of talking about some of these fandoms I've encountered that have been a little aggressive, like I said, since I've been running this channel. I have 10 of them, and I don't necessarily like rank them, but I'm going to kind of go for the ones that have been the loudest. Let's kind of put it that way. Again, this does not mean negative, but I know you're not listening to me and you're just going to attack anyway, and I understand because like I said, I'm a fan as well, guys, and I have been a part of some of these fandoms that have gotten quite rabid in the past. Go ahead and start with Christopher Paolini's The Inheritance Cycle. This is Aragon, this is Eldest, this is Brissinger, and this is, what was the last one called? Empire? I don't even know because I never got to it. And why I bring this one up is because I did a video on the channel a long time ago when I first got started saying why you should read The Inheritance Cycle. And then I didn't finish it. And I said I thought that I just didn't understand why this series got so much shit from the community, why people attacked this series so much when it got a lot of people, like a Harry Potter, interested in reading. It had a lot of people reading fantasy for the first time, but people just completely just railed on this series, and I didn't get it. So that's why I made the video, and then I didn't finish it, and I looked like a clown. So hey, it happens sometimes. But the pushback I got a lot on this one is another video I did where I said series that lost their way or I did not finish, and this was one of them, and a lot of pushback from people obviously that grew up with this series. It was very, very dear to them about how could I say that? It's a very creative world. It didn't rip off anything. And I never really accused it of these things. I just saying that for some reason, I never really got past that second book. And I read it twice. I got to that same spot. I started over and I read Aragon, and then I got halfway through Eldest and I quit at almost the same spot 2 times. And I don't understand. That's really what I said. But again, this is a very, I would say at this point, a very small fandom, but it's very devoted. And again, like I said, these are people that grew up with this series, so I kind of understand it. But again, not extremely loud or overly negative or anything like that. Just telling me I was wrong for not finishing it. How about the grandfather of it all, guys? Here, J.R.R. Tolkien, I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings and beyond. With this, I feel like a lot of people came into being a Tolkien fan that did discover the movies first. I feel like it's 20 years old now, so you can say there is a whole generation that grew to love this series based off of those movies. So you get the book fans who really are pissed off when someone says something that they like about the movies better than the books. Myself included, I love the books to death. It's my favorite fantasy series of all time. But I have said there is changes that Peter Jackson made to the movie that I think work out better. The biggest one, of course, being no Tom Bombadil. I could care less. I could give 0 Fs that Tom Bombadil was not in that movie. Because I always said, we don't know that they didn't meet Tom Bombadil. We just didn't see it on screen. That was kind of the attitude I've always had, but as we saw with that recent Wheel of Time stuff, I'm pretty easy on adaptation, and if I've really got a real problem with it, I think you really, really missed the point of adapting something. But yeah, book fans can be quite proud about anything Tolkien related. I know that they can be. Every single series that comes out, they stole that from Tolkien. I mean, pretty much everything. But I mean, again, just about every modern fantasy author you can think of today was influenced by Tolkien. I mean, it's expected. So when you get the one who does push back against it, people don't like it. And those fans are loud and proud, and I am guilty of probably being one myself, because anytime someone says, I think Lord of the Rings was great for its time, but it's aged out, that gets the I guess the fire's cooking, and I have to maybe say something myself. This one isn't a series or anything. This is just a book I've talked about a few times on this channel. Did one called A Popular Opinion. It was classics that I didn't love. Well, you expect pushback on something like that, but one that I get a lot is I do not like Catcher in the Rye. I thought that was an absolutely atrocious book. I thought Holden Caulfield is the most obnoxious, annoying, entitled little punk of a main character I've ever seen in a book. And people got mad. They're like, hey, you're just jealous because you're not Holden Caulfield or something ridiculous like that. Lots of people adore that book. It's just one of those that didn't click for me. Just like I know there's a lot of classics I like that don't click for other people. Classics are going to be very... Anybody who is, 50 years removed, you're born 50 years after a book was released or so, just given like a ballpark range there, I think that some things are going to work for you and not. And classics are going to be very, very polarizing in that way. And Catcher in the Rye just did not work for me. And I think it's one of those, it was just built up for so long about how amazing this book was. It was like the best character study. And Mike, you being this big character first guy, you're going to love this. And I could not stand the character. So, yeah, don't get it. Don't get it at all. But there is a slew of fans on Booktube who will not watch anything else I make. Or at least they've said so, because I said bad things about Holden Caulfield. Apparently, they're a literary role model. So, hey, do what works for you. Look up to your own role models, I guess. I don't know. How about one of the bigger ones here, guys? This is Star Wars. Now, I've been on both sides of this one. I think this new one isn't really like it used to be. It used to just be, oh, how can you get this thing wrong about this or this or this? Because if you read this add-on comic that was a limited edition, it did this and it answered this question. Not like that. It's not like it used to be. Now it has become like the old canon, that's me, and the new Disney Star Wars, that is not me. And that has seemed to be the big thing that makes fandoms just absolutely nuts now. I've made no secret that I love the expanded, the original EU, they call Legends now. I love it. I love it to death. And I will always consider it canon, because you can't let someone read that stuff for 20, 25 years and tell them one day it doesn't count anymore. You can, if you do something better. And I felt like they didn't do something better. So that's why I was like, I've tried the new canon. I was welcoming to giving the new canon a try. I read about the first 5 books when they released, and I couldn't stand any of them. I knew where this was headed. I didn't care for it. So the big pushback always is going to be, well, you're this or this, and you didn't like it because that or that. Look, guys, Star Wars has been my religion since I was 3 years old. So, yeah, anyone that comes in and tells me I'm not a Star Wars fan because I don't like what Disney fan fiction is doing to it, I guess you know more about the Force than I do, because that's not how it worked for me. Star Wars was always for everyone back, in my time. So it was really, really weird about how the way the fandom's just kind of grown to it was always the one thing that we could all talk about. Like I talked to him recently in that tag video about how me, my brother, and my dad, we really didn't talk very much. And the one thing we could always talk about was Star Wars. It was always something that was the common denominator between all of us. And now all people do is fight about Star Wars. And it's very, very sad. It is very sad. And I know that those fans on both sides of that fight can be very aggressive. Again, I know I've been one of them. When The Last Jedi came out, I was probably one of those that people would see as unfavorable, because I did not like what they did to a certain character in that. But that is a subject I've expanded on greatly on this channel. You don't have to look too far to find it. How about one that is going to be not a surprise really to anyone, because my very first unpopular opinion video in here, one that probably brought a lot of people to this channel, or at least got their eyes on. I don't know if they necessarily stayed. That, of course, is the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I did my unpopular opinion video called Name of the Wind, which is just saying that I know people love this book. They adore this book. They think it's the greatest thing ever written, or at least the most important book of the last quarter century. There are people saying it's up there with Tolkien, and that he might be the greatest writer of all time. And what I said was, yeah, the guy writes great, but the story gives a shit. I didn't like the story at all. I didn't like the characters, and I didn't like the story. For me, you got to have a good plot, and you got to have good characters. I don't care how beautiful of a writer you are. I don't care how expansive your world is. If I don't care about your characters, and I don't care about your plot, it's going to be kind of hard to keep me around. And I was very much open to saying, hey, that's my opinion. I encourage you guys to read it yourself and find out. That's always the way I've been. But man, Ooh, those comments are rough if you check out that video sometime. And yeah, that's still to the day, guys. Now, I don't use Reddit anymore, but I used to use Reddit. And to the day, that is the only Reddit I have ever been banned from, was the KINGKILLER one. So basically, I feel like, you know, Malazan gets a lot of flack for this. People say with Malazan fans that if you don't think it's the greatest series of all time, their fans will run you out of Dodge. I think actually while I've been doing this, Malazan fans have been actually really great to me. Spoiler, Malazan's on this list. Malazan fans have been really understanding. Anything I said that I didn't really like, they've said, you know, hey, I think about my first time reading it, I didn't like it. Or they accuse me of not getting it, and I say, you're right, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't hide the fact that I don't get some of these things. But I think KINGKILLER fans act like if you don't think it's the greatest thing ever written, they will jump down your throat. And these are the hardcore loyalists here. They will really just come after you. And yeah, again, you make a video like that, you expect to hear that kind of feedback. But that was happening even before I started this channel. Just because I said I didn't like that book, I was just treated like a leper, you know. So look, Patrick, finish that series, because I know Patrick watches this channel. Patrick, finish that story. Finish that trilogy. And I'll give it another shot. That's my promise. I will give it another try. Okay, how about one that should not be surprising at all? The COSMERE. Brandon Sanderson. Now, I've only read his COSMERE books. I haven't read anything outside of that. So that's why I'm saying the COSMERE in particular. And this is a case of, this is an author I love. But for some reason, the rest of Booktube treats him as infallible. There is absolutely nothing to be critical about when you're talking about Brandon Sanderson. You are not allowed to ever say something that he did not work, or you are in trouble. And all you have to do is just listen to my opinions. I did one where I ranked the whole COSMERE, and basically all I said was my opinions about Rhythm of War, about how it really let me down. That might have been one of my most disappointing books of that year, because I love the Stormlight Archive, and it set the bar really high. That book was just a complete letdown for me. And then there was Mistborn Era 2, which I really wasn't digging. And I know a lot of people love Era 2. They like Era 2 almost more than Era 1, or more than Era 1. But yeah, I think anytime I'm critical of Brandon Sanderson, it's thumbs down city. Now, I know they have the thumbs down hidden where you guys can't see anymore. But for example, I just talked to Sarah from Sarah Reads, and she said in that video that she is not understanding the Brandon Sanderson thing. That she's read some Brandon Sanderson, she isn't getting it. She doesn't understand what people like about it. And that is one of the most thumbs down videos I have on this channel, which is amazing. And I gotta assume that's why, because the same thing happened to that COSMERE ranking video, you know. So basically everything I do Sanderson on this channel, oh, quit pretending that you like Brandon Sanderson, because all you ever do is say his books are like a B. And I'm like, first of all, is a B a bad grade now? And second of all, I reviewed the entire COSMERE in 2020, and all except like 3 books, I was over the top positive on it. So that just goes to show you. So Sando fans, man, they are a dedicated bunch. They really are, and they will let you know. They will give you the business if you think there is anything wrong with something that the man has ever written. Now, this next one might seem kind of like a cheat, because I'm getting into the really aggressive ones here, because I haven't read this series, and that's where the attacks came from, because I said I was not interested in reading it. In my opinion, I said it in a completely positive way. Completely positive way. Was not detracting from the series at all. I'm talking, of course, about One Piece, the manga. And I did a video where it was like manga that I want to try. And I just said, first up, I know you guys are going to say you need to read One Piece. I've already talked to other people in my community that know what I like, that are trying to get me to read manga, and it doesn't sound like that's for me. That's all I said. You would have thought I just got on this camera, picked up the first issue of One Piece, and took a steaming pile of shit on it, the way that the reaction I got. I had people thumbs down bombing my channel, like everything about it. Every video I made, every comment on there was something about One Piece, to the point where I had to go and filter out the word One Piece because it got so nasty there for a minute. And you know, they do what mobs usually do. They moved along, and that does happen. But the thing about it was, this is the Rick and Morty fans of Booktube. It really is. The kind of fans that are just so abrasive to people who haven't checked it out yet that they drive people away from wanting to try it. And it's really disheartening. I gotta tell people, if One Piece means the world to you, that's awesome. It's something that you grew up with. Do you really expect a 43-year-old man reading manga for the first time to want to read something like that? It might be great. All I said was I was going off of what I was told by people who know what I like. And man, I got raked over the coals for it. So One Piece might be magnificent. I might really love it. I just have no plans to read it right now. I never say never on anything. I was just stating in that video that I wasn't going to be talking about it on that top 10 list. So again, a very, very spirited bunch. I don't necessarily want to say that they're just negative as much as they really can chase off people who haven't read it yet by just with their just being just crazy sycophants for it. I think that really can just bring a series down. So just like this one here. Now this is kind of opposite. This isn't really the fandom as much as the anti-fandom. Talking, of course, about H.P. Lovecraft. Anytime I talk about H.P. Lovecraft on this channel, that's going to be some of the nastiest comments that I ever get. So much so that YouTube, usually the filter it has in place, usually catches those and doesn't post those because it's some bad stuff. I've gotten written letters. I've gotten letters in the mail from people upset about how they've been following my channel since I had 300 subscribers, but they can't do it anymore because I talked about Lovecraft and I didn't mention what an awful person he was. Now, first off, guys, if you have really been here since I had that few subscribers, you know from day one that my mission statement for this channel was, I'm going to talk about the books, and I'm going to talk about the books only. I'm not going to talk about anything going on with these creators, because look, there's been some really awful people that have made some really amazing entertainment. There's no way you can deny that. And I have that ability to separate the art from the author or the artist. I know that some people do not, but I do wish that some of those people would let those like me alone. You know, we're not going to make a video about a topic that we love and every single time say, well, but I got to say, this author is a bad person because they did this, they did this, they did this, they did this. You know these things. And you know what? There's lots of other channels out there that will do that for you. Me, I'm always going to talk about the books. And I'm not going to pretend that H.P. Lovecraft was not instrumental in this love affair I developed with the horror genre. You know, he was he left a big impression on me as a teenager. So it would be just dumb of me to be like, oh, well, now that I know more about him, I don't like those stories anymore. I'm never going to be that person. I'm always going to keep it about the words on the page that they wrote, guys. So if that's something you can't get past, I mean, I hate it, but I understand if you've got to peace out. I get it. Might not be the channel for you, but yeah, that's been some of the... again, you take so much dedication that you're going to write me a letter in the mail to tell me that you can't watch my channel anymore because I talked about a Lovecraft book one time and I didn't talk about what a horrible person he was. Oh, okay. All right, now we're into the last two here, guys, and I think that these will be no surprise. Well, the big one might not. I know everybody thinks that Wheel of Time is going to be my number one, but it's actually my number two. Wheel of Time fans are aggressively passionate. They are aggressively passionate. And I mean that in both the best and the worst ways. When I first started this, I loved how welcome that community was. They are rabid to see anyone devouring this series for the first time. They love to watch that adventure. And I love that about them. They were very welcoming. They never spoiled anything for me. I'll have to say that the whole way. No one spoiled anything for me. And that was incredible that you could read a series this long in a wide open public forum such as this, and no one spoiled anything for me. That's great. When I got to about Knife of Dreams, I had some major character criticisms, and that's when a lot of them turned on me. And again, if you've watched the channel, you know I'm never going to lie. I say I'm never going to bullshit you about these things. I'm going to be honest. Stuff that's working for me and stuff that's not. And people who were just like, your channel's so mesmerizing, I love what you do, turn it to, you don't get it, you don't understand this series, you should delete your account. And it was just wild to me. And it's all because I said I didn't like Egwene. It's amazing the people who, the Egwene truthers, as I call them, really just went off on me. And then, of course, you know, as we've been reviewing the Wheel of Time TV series, a lot of those same people have found their way to my channel and not been very, very pleasant about it. Again, guys, I'm always going to be positive on this channel. I'm always going to tell you the truth about how I feel about something. If a character development of something isn't working for me, I'm going to bring it up. If something that I always constantly detract from about YA authors, I'm not going to let an author I love, you know, skate by on that just because it's an author that I love. If they're doing the same thing, I love John Gwynne, and I hate that he used that line. He let go of the breath he didn't know he was holding. You know, it didn't mean I don't like John Gwynne anymore. You know, if it's something like I said that is a YA trope that I constantly rag on, and then an amazing series like Wheel of Time does something that I see a lot of similarity in that. Again, just because we love Robert Jordan, I'm not going to just ignore that happened. So I brought it up, and yeah, it didn't go well. So again, I like to think that most of that fandom is incredibly passionate, and that is their Lord of the Rings. You know, they grew up with that. That is everything to them. That is their whole world. These are the type of fans that when they finish reading it, they start over on Eye of the World again. So I get it. This is like their Bible to them. This is how I feel when people just say that Dune is trash. I get it. I understand where they're coming from. It's just so amazing that the first, 2/3 of that journey was so wonderful with that community, and then they just completely blasted me, the last third of it, and it was unexpected, but it taught me a lot of things, as did going back and doing this As the Wheel Turns stuff with Madison. Really opened up a lot of those wounds and reminded me of it. But that's not the most aggressive fandom that I have ever run into, guys. I think this will be surprising to some people, because people won't think of this series as being like this. It has a huge devoted following, like huge, massive. And I've only been into it now for, just under 2 years, but I love it to death. I'm talking, of course, about the Dresden Files. The Dresden Files, the reaction I had while I was doing those videos, I'm going to be truthful with you guys. That reaction is why I stopped doing spoiler reviews on this channel. I'll still do like a spoiler talk or something like that, but just the straight spoiler reviews where I talk about the whole plot of the book and kind of talk about my reaction to it as I went, that's the reason I stopped. And I think that's because Dresden Files fans are super, super accurate. They do not, you say something like, oh, that part where, Thomas scratched his eyebrow, like, actually, Harry scratched his eyebrow there, not Thomas. And they will jump on you for the tiniest thing. And those review videos, I basically had people saying, I can't believe you didn't bring up this, or this. I was like, I never said I was the fucking Cliff Notes, guys. I was just talking about the biggest moments in the book and all the things that I thought about it. And they would just go crazy about this one thing that I forgot to talk about. That's why I said, I got to stop doing these spoiler talks or these spoiler reviews, because I feel like if I missed one thing, I was just going to get grilled for it. I felt like I was being tested, and that's not why I read, guys. That's not why I do this channel as a whole. But to me, Dresden Files is fun. Now, look, there's a lot of weight to it. There's very serious content. It's very deep when you really go into it. It really is. But I read Dresden Files and I have a good time. I'm not reading Art of War here. And people are really just like, oh, you didn't understand. You didn't understand a Dresden Files book? Jesus Christ, come on. It was just a rough fandom, to the point to where I said, well, at the time there was 15 of them out. And I said, okay, when I finish Skin Game, I'm done with the spoiler review thing, because I can't do this anymore. Again, people were just wanting to use me basically as a recap for them, so they didn't have to reread the series. So if I left something out, I guess that's what I can assume. That's the only thing I can assume, how people would get mad that I didn't mention one line in one paragraph or something. It's just amazing. So look, it was my first time reading those guys. I know a lot of people, like Wheel of Time fans, they listen to those audiobooks on repeat. They never stop listening to them. They have them memorized, So I get it. But again, I want people to understand that, like I said when we started this, no, I know they're not going to listen. I'm not saying any of these fan bases are bad. I will never say any fan base is toxic, because I hate that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, as a content creator, this is the biggest pushback I've seen, is from these 10 series or stories right here. And kind of my experience with it. I'm never going to stop talking about any of these or anything like that. And I'm definitely not saying that any of these are bad people. I think every fandom has that small, loud minority that likes to be super negative, and I don't like to apply that label to a fandom as a whole just because a couple people are negative. I'll always say 99 to 1, the comments on this channel are overly positive, but these are the ones I think I got the most pushback from. So that's why I kind of wanted to talk about them. So guys, if you had any experience with some really aggressive fandoms, positive or negative, there are no wrong answers here. I think everyone's going to kind of have a different experience with these things. But as a content creator with a platform the size that this channel currently is, these are the ones that I hear the most back about. So drop in the comments and let me know about yours. And if these are any of these, if you're part of this and you think that I'm way off on this, hey, go down in the comments and shout about why your content, why your fandom is not aggressive. I can't wait to hear it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you there.